Sorry, randomness happened. Anyway, so back to where I was going. So the interactions and adaptations that will happen are easily pointed out if you take a look at Native American societies. So Native American societies will begin to change as a result of European contact. The most notable, of course, of which is the development or the introduction of the horse, which will rapidly change Native American society, especially west of the 100th meridian, where the Sioux, the Lakota people begin to, and people like them, the horse warriors, if you will, of the American plains, dramatically change the way that they functioned economically up to that point in time. The next, Europeans developed a variety of colonization and migration patterns influenced by different imperial goals, cultures, and the varied North American environments. All right. So the easy one to take a look at here is that, like a comparison, is that in the North American continent, both the French, again in the North, in Canada, what will be called Canada at some point, and the 13 colonies will begin to deal with the environment and begin to interact with Native Americans in trade. So, of course, the Europeans are trading with Native Americans. The Native Americans have a vast number of resources and a huge, typically, population as compared to the Europeans in the beginning. And so the North American colonists relied on the Native Americans. It's really important for food, for interaction and labor. This is particularly true in the French's case, where they are really, really interested in the fur trade in the Ohio River Valley, and then all the way down the Louisiana territories, right, that are, again, west of the European colonies. And as a result of the French's dependence on the Native Americans, they develop a very, co-equal existence with the Native Americans versus the Europeans, versus the English, who tend to see the Native Americans as savages, as less than them. And so they establish kind of a hostile relationship with the Native American societies in the 13 colonies. Now, of course, there's alliances and political alliances and cultural alliances that happen with the Native Americans and the European colonists again in the beginning, but the French have a much less hostile orientation towards the Native Americans than the English do. That's kind of the most important thing to focus on because of the resources that the French are trying to gain from their French territories, versus the English, who are less interested in the economic output, if you will, of the American continents, again, leading up to about 1754. We're not, the English kind of leave us alone because we're poor. That's the major thing to, again, kind of focus on. Okay. So, British colonies participating in political, social, cultural, and economic exchange with Great Britain that encouraged both stronger bonds with Britain and resistance to Britain's control. Okay, so we look up to Britain politically, socially, culturally, economically, and we get everything from Britain because we have a mercantilist, they have a mercantilist attitude towards us, right, where essentially we supply Great Britain with raw materials, think sugar, tobacco, wood, and then they supply us with finished materials, guns, furniture, tea eventually, right? And so we have this really interesting relationship with Britain where we rely on them, and they want things from us. They want those raw materials from us. But at the same time, because we're fairly poor, and because the British by 1750 have begun to expand their colonial empire, especially into India, right, where the real money is, into the Indies Ocean, we take a back seat. And so, again, because they are, if you want to think about it, they're our parent, right? We both look up to them, and that's at the same time, because they leave us alone all the time, they leave us in that, we don't have a curfew, if you want to think about it like that as a metaphor. We develop our own political system. So in every single colony, there is a governor, okay, or some sort of control by the crown. This varies from colony to colony, okay? and there is then a parliamentarian system that's developed or created by the colonists. Okay, and these are really important because these, like the House of Burgess in Virginia, will then eventually lead to the development of the committees of correspondence, and will eventually lead to our notions of statehood and things like that. And so each colony has its own independent idea of itself, both from Britain and from the other colonies, all at the same time. Okay? European colonialization efforts in North America stimulated intercultural contact and intensified conflict between various groups of colonizers and Native Americans. This is pretty simple, okay? So not only are we trading with Native Americans, not only are we, right, and this is the most easily seen in, if you watched Daniel Day-Lewis, come on, the movie, oh dear, the Leatherstocking series, where Daniel Day-Lewis is running around and fighting, in the 7 Years' War, etc. Anyway, so this intensified cultural contact, especially on the western border, right, where the Europeans, as they expand, English primarily, as they expand to the west and they come up to the proclamation, what will become the proclamation line of 1763 on the Appalachian Mountains, those frontiersmen and women will interact much more directly with Native Americans, and they adopt much more directly Native American traditions and ideologies. And of course, the further away you get from those, Boston, New York City, the less contact and economic exchange is happening, cultural exchange is happening with Native American societies. Okay, now, and again, we, that is the English colonists, ally ourselves with different Native American groups across the different, across different colonies, and so do the French ally themselves with different Native American groups on the western borders of those colonies. And what's going to happen is that those colonies, the English colonies and the French colonies, because we're expanding and we continue to want to kind of move west because we're running out of land, again, a theme for us in the United States, that we're constantly trying to move west until, we hit California, is that we're trying to expand west, and we're actively breaking treaties that we've signed with the French and Native American tribes, and as a result of us actively breaking those treaties, and the American tribes then retaliating against us, again, another old story, right, in American history. We break treaties, Native Americans retaliate against us, killing a few settlers, and then we get mad and we call and ask the British to help us out, and they show up and they defend us. This is the 7 Years' War. So the 7 Years' War, the French and Indian War, that breaks out in the 1750s between the French and their Indian allies and the English colonies and their Indian allies, Native American allies, will lead to this clash between these two up-and-coming economic, political powers in Western Europe, and it's on the North American continent. Long story short, for the 7 Years' War is that the British win, primarily because from the help of the English colonists, and the French, again, remember, they're less attached to their North American colonies than the English are. They're much more interested in just trading fur with the Native Americans there, and so there are fewer French, there are fewer defenses, there are fewer cities, there's fewer people, and so, long story short, as a result of fewer people, the French and their Native American allies are going to lose. And as a result, we're granted all of this territory in the Ohio Valley, okay, across the Appalachian Mountains. And in the first major decisions that the British are going to make, they're going to make these choices about not allowing us to move there, and that's going to really deepen the kind of anger that at least some of the colonists are going to feel towards the British Empire, because now they're trying to impose, these rules and, structures on us that we just don't like. Okay? So like I said, take those kind of as an idea and really take a look at your notes, take a look at Quizlet, and really insert those terms, really kind of draw out what's happening. If, like I didn't even mention the Dutch, go onto Wikipedia, look where the Dutch were. Okay, they're in New York, right? And look what's happening with their empire. When do the English push them out? When does the French colonies in the north? How does that boundary get set up. So do a little research for yourself in addition to kind of listening to this, and then, like I said, draw that out on the map on the other side. We'll take a look at them on Tuesday, Wednesday. Thanks. Hope you guys have a good weekend. If there are any questions, of course, email me. Have a good night. Bye.